Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Frontier Workshop. As always, I am your host, Agent Mav, and as always, I am joined by my good friend, Therus.
Hello, hi.
Hello. This is episode 3 of our Titanfall 3 Frontier Workshop episode, and today we've got a very exciting topic, don't we? Don't we?
Yes, we do. I believe it is pilot customization.
Pilot
No, well,
customization.
actually, it's just pilots in general.
Just oh, we are focusing more on customization rather than actual gameplay. We're not gonna
Yeah,
touch on like time to kill or the weapons, as a matter of fact, because the weapons we might do for a separate episode because there's a bit to talk about there in terms of like categories, customization, and like weapon types. But today, we are just gonna be talking about the customization. We're gonna be talking about tacticals. We'll touch on pilot kits as well, and boosts, as well as some cosmetic changes that could be made to appeal to the wider community. Is that a good like summary of
yeah. No, I
what?
mean, it's a fairly good summary. I
Okay.
mean, we'll dress on everything, so everything's a little bit more clear
But
later on.
before any of that begins, I want to thank today's sponsor. I'm just kidding. Um, no, but I do actually have a couple of announcements before this podcast begins. First of all, we are going to be doing a second podcast series, talking about the Titanfall 3 campaign. Very exciting stuff, and we have decided that since there's a lot to talk about in regards to the campaign to Titanfall 3, we should just dedicate a whole series to it. So the way it's going to work, or the way we think it's going to work, because we just talked about it not that long ago, like 10 minutes ago, is we'll dedicate each episode of the podcast to a mission of the campaign. And in the end, we'll have our own Titanfall 3 campaign that we can reference and bring up whenever we feel like it. If there's like a downer in the conversation, we can be like, hey, that's cool, but like, we have this Titanfall 3 campaign idea, right?
And like anybody that's listening to this, feel free to like give your suggestions or ideas. I
No,
know like the
no,
Reddit
we don't.
tab.
We don't take suggestions.
Oh, we're selfish.
Nah,
Okay.
yeah, we're greedy bastards, and we don't like anybody's opinions.
Yeah, but
That's
there's
obviously
I know
obviously
there's
a
like
joke.
tons of people that like when everyone was going insane and everything like that. Titanfall 3 was a hot
Oh,
topic,
the
and everyone had their
schizophrenia.
yeah, and
The
everyone's ideas that came out. I mean, some of them were actually pretty fun, like on bosses and things like that. But
did
again,
you catch the one about the scorch buff, the passive that makes him immune to his own fire?
oh yes, the ever present Scorch buff,
Buff
the one
scorch.
that I think everyone unanimously agreed on. Yeah,
And
but
also
we'll cover that later.
I do have a second announcement. For any of you that hasn't, check out my installation guide to the North Star client because we will be making a Discord server soon. And those who join, we'll talk about all things Titanfall. You can get some early ideas or some early access to the ideas we're going to talk about in our next podcast. You'll get all the latest updates on my channel. And also, more excitingly, if we do get enough people, we'll be hosting Titanfall 2 North Star Client custom games, which should be
Woo!
very exciting. So yeah, keep an eye out for that in the future. Make sure you're subscribed so you can keep up with all the podcasts, all the latest details on the Discord. And with those two announcements out of the way, let's jump straight into this episode, shall we? And kick
Yeah.
off to kick off this episode, we're going to be talking about pilot tacticals, which we have talked about a couple times, haven't we?
Yeah. Once or twice, I believe.
So, as we handle this, should we talk about the variant system first, or
Let's
the
actually.
side grade because it's like the same thing? They're like,
I think we should start out with just the idea of tacticals, our ideas on how to expand on that, and then from there we'll just slowly branch down from
okay,
like
fair enough.
piece to
So
piece.
yeah, do you wanna define a tactical then?
How do you define a lifestyle?
Or
So basically,
or what
basically,
we think
just
tacticals should be
tacticals
then?
are. Yeah, I mean, okay. So tacticals and our overarching idea on it is so we'll just take. grapple hook because everyone loves it.
Yeah.
You have grappling hook and all that. So these would be like the front facing core idea of the 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 pilot that you pick. One of the things that we are going to, well, I mean, we have ideas on adding additional ones. Ones being like the
Yeah, we'll
warp
touch on
blade,
that.
which, yeah, and so
We won't
again,
mention the
we
tacticals
will
now.
increase the
Yeah.
yeah, we'll increase like the overarching how many there are, as well as the idea of maybe giving each tactical not just their ability that you pick, but each tactical will also have a passive that also benefits its
Yes,
playstyle.
tactical
So,
passives. Very exciting.
going further, we'll be covering pilot kits and then also the idea of customizable jump kits. Sounds a
Yes.
little bit weird at first, but
But
hear
like
us out.
trust us
It makes
guys, there
sense.
is a
Yeah.
method to our madness.
Then we'll be going on to boosts. How pilots, when you play the game, how
We're just
boosts
doing
will
a
affect
second recap.
gameplay, as well as, yeah, this is a secondary recap, but these are all the
Yes.
points that we're covering, and then
Yep.
how well boosts can be changed to better fit the game. So some don't feel like they're left out looking at you hack satellite or whatever map app. I don't even know. That's how well I use it. Is I don't because I don't remember it. And then as well as generic
I
pilot
used to use map
customization.
hack.
So, oh, where you just got rid of their radar and no one cared.
No, that's
I'm
radar
sorry, I'm being
jammer.
cynical.
That's radar
Radar
jammer.
jammer. That's
Map
right.
hack's
Map
the
hack
one where
actually
it's the useful
that
one.
has a use. Okay, yeah.
It's
Okay.
the sonar pulse, but just better. You know?
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, that I think is most everything that we'll cover.
But yeah,
Um,
tacticals. We'll start off with tacticals. The idea with tacticals is that we came up with an alternative system where as you play with a tactical, you could unlock variations or side upgrades to that tactical that lean into certain playstyles and preferences rather than statistical upgrades because it's unfair for a new player if they join in and see like the long list of upgrades they can get for all the tacticals. Um, and you also brought this up better than I could talk um, about unfair advantages for players who have played the game longer.
yeah.
And
So like nothing should be an inherent upgrade. Everything is more a side grade as you
so,
progress
yeah,
forward.
I want to talk about the grapple actually because I did come up with a couple days for that a long time ago. Um, and we also have the phase shift one that we talked about. Where we actually got saw that from the video. But the idea with the variation system, I actually already made a video on it before. But with the side upgrades for the tacticals, as let's say you pick up Grapple for the first time, you start playing with it, and you get to level 5, and you unlock an alternative version of the grappling hook that plays into a different playstyle. Let's say this is the quick draw grapple, which is a much faster grappling hook that deploys quicker and launches you quicker and gets you out of the animation so you can start shooting a lot sooner. This is different to the regular grapple hook, which is longer. It has a you're locked in that animation as long as you have the grapple deployed, and it's used for like slingshots, quick traversals around the map, all sorts of stuff. The quick draw grapple is different in that it's quick, precise, and gets your weapon out faster, and it's used in one-on-one fights. And then so you equip that, and it's not a statistical upgrade. It's a variation because it adheres to a certain play style more than the previous grappling hook mentioned. And
But
then,
now, where would be the downsides of that one as opposed to?
well,
Is
the
it not as
quick
long,
draw,
or
yeah,
is
the
it
quick
is it
draw
like you only
is
have one charge of it?
the quick draw. It's the pros and cons of the quick draw compared to the standard traversal grapple hook. The traversal grapple hook is longer, of course. It gets you up to speed. It gets you a lot more speed in the long run, so you can do slingshots and more of the tricky maneuvers with the traversal. The quick draw, it's shorter. It doesn't have like a longer range, and it doesn't propel you at like 80 kilometers per hour as like the normal traversal one would.
It's to use quick maneuvers as opposed to use to get distance.
Yeah, and
Okay.
it's adhering to people who want to use the grapple in the middle of fights. So you can use the quick draw, get some verticality over your opponent. Maybe if you're stuck on the low ground and your opponent's on the high ground, you can use the quick draw to quickly get eye level with them, or just like quick, precise moves that you can do for that. So,
Okay.
and that's kind of like the philosophy for all the variations. Yeah,
Yeah, they each have a place.
yeah. For players who want to play differently with a certain tactical.
Hmm.
Um,
How many variations would you assume each tactical would
I
have?
would assume that each tactical would have like a bare minimum of 3,
Okay. With
um,
default or including default?
including default.
Okay.
So for the grapple hook, I did have a third one, but it's a little janky. I haven't really. Um, Essentially, it's designed to be a grappling hook that acts nothing like the traditional Titanfall grappling hook, and I called it the Electrified grappling hook because what it does is it's actually used as an
Oh, it's a long range
aggressive.
taser.
Yeah, pretty much. Except it's specifically designed to target pilots and like whip them in closer while like giving them a little distortion effect. So this grappling hook is not used for movement or repositioning. It's used to be super aggressive against your enemies. So yeah,
Yeah,
and that's like the third
and
grappling hook.
like off the top of my head, I could already think of like variations where it's like maybe dual grappling hook where you can send out two at once and be
Oh,
very
have you ever
Spider-Man
seen Attack on
esque.
Titan? They have like
Yes.
the the
Yeah.
uh the two like anchor projectors around their waist where they send out 2 grappling hooks and use that to like traverse around.
Yeah, and you could do
That's
very much like a very similar variation and things like that.
but we also saw a video on phase shift, which I wasn't originally going to bring up phase shift for the variations, but like for phase shift you can have like the normal one where maybe you have a longer time in phase shift, and then maybe for the second variation, maybe it's called like the wisp, and when you phase, you can move faster in the phase dimension. And then for the third one, the Banshee, which I think it's a really funny idea, is if you go phase, you can hold down like the phase button whilst in the alternate dimension, and you can come out and explode and just cause like a massive like explosion. I
Just a
that
walking landmine.
we're not gonna talk about balancing because like that's like a whole another topic. These are just like throwing
Well,
ideas out there.
well,
Unless you want to
what
talk
I
about it.
I'll cover balancing like in a very like quick beat. You
All right.
can get away because time to kill is so low. You can get away with a lot quicker, like insta gibs and things like that. So if a phase shift pops up next to you and kills a pilot next to you, you can get away with it because time to kill in Timefall is so quick. If you make a longer time to kill, there's a little bit more pain there. It almost seems like an easier kill, but because in Titanfall 2 right now as it is, you can theoretically get away with a walking explosive ghost thing just so long as it's like visually indicated, like if there's the trail coming next to you and there's
Yeah,
easy
you
ways
could
to
do
avoid
like
it or
Wraith from Apex Legends with, or and maybe like the
yeah,
first phase shift doesn't have the trail, so there's the pro for that. If you want to be like
yeah,
a stealth phase shift,
yeah, like a ghost or something. Yeah.
yeah. And passives is our final little side topic for tacticals, which actually ties in to pilot kits. So you explain passives to me, so I'll let you explain it here.
Okay, so the idea of like particular types of passives and things like that would be it kind of touches away on how kits work in Titanfall as they do now. For the sake of understanding, if we were to take low profile or the kit of low profile alone, it could be again kits aren't super prevalent outside of tier 1 kits. Tier 2 kits like low profile, they're kind of interchangeable and honestly none of them change up the game to a concernable extent. So why not take some of those and put them as pilot passives because the main reason why certain people use low profile is to get better rodeos on Titans, yada yada. So in the extent of like cloak pilot, right? Low profile is very good because the Titan can't see you, and now they can't see
Your
your
jump jet
jet
trail.
trails, and
Yeah.
they're very silent. So that makes those go together very well. So my idea is if you pick the ghost or the cloak pilot, you will always have that kit as a passive on you. And then same thing would be for like if you have pulse blade, maybe you also have kill report just as a passive.
In phase
And
shift, you
then
could have phase and bark, and so on and so on.
exactly. And the thing is those kits will no longer be able to be picked, but there'll be different kits when you pick like when we get actually into kits, there'll be different kit abilities for those two types of kits. So
There,
we're not getting rid of them, but the kits that best complement certain playstyles. Because why would you, outside of being quote unquote stealthy for the first little bit of the rodeo, there's really no reason to run silent
yeah. Look,
on
there's no.
stim pilot or a grapple hook pilot outside of not being detected for the first little bit. So yeah, there's variations that you could play, but I feel like giving a stim pilot a faster heal regeneration just by default
Makes
would be
sense.
yeah, it would not only make sense but be better in the long run.
Yeah,
So
and it adds. I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna interrupt you. Sorry.
go for it.
It adds. We were talking earlier about interchanging these passives, like when you reach a certain level. Um, but in the end, I think that the passives they deserve to be exclusive to a certain tactical because it's kind of like a perk of the tactical. Like low profile should always be with cloak, and kill report should always be with pulse blade, and that's because they're passive specifically designed for that tactical, and adds more versatility to that tactical and more incentive to pick it because they have a more distinguished playstyle.
And
And
this
yeah,
does hurt in at least three categories, which is one, it takes away a little bit of the customization from the player, which could hurt, but at the same time could be overlooked
but at the same
as it
time,
being a
sorry, before you go into the second category and the third, I want to quickly touch on that. The reason
yeah.
we've done these passives is because low profile kill report, they're not really that impactful
Mhm.
to like, and they don't really deserve taking up like an entire pilot kit when we can add like new and better kits that are more viable. So we're moving these lesser used and lesser viable pilot kits and making them part of tacticals for that very reason.
Yeah.
Because
Uh, but yeah, like I was saying, the first one again, it might take away a little bit of the customization from a person, but as you stated,
yeah,
they are lesser used. They're not dominating things. Like besides stealth, which I think is honestly the strongest of them because of it giving you a little bit longer time before you're noticed and that electric smoke gets popped. Yeah, and I think that would be the biggest reason for them to be interchangeable is for the second reason, which is balance. How do you make certain ones how do you make them all the equal same amount of balance? And I feel like in one respect you can balance it later on as you see metas start to develop, but at the same time the balance should be tied with how strong the tactical is, but or how strong the pilot ability is by itself.
because there are tacticals that are obviously more stronger than other tacticals. Like
Yeah. So
you see those at the top of the ladder, which are like stim, grapple, and then below that maybe there's like pulse blade.
yeah. So like if grapple were to get a very weak-ish passive, it wouldn't hurt too much, but it still gives it a passive that complements grapple without
Yeah.
being broken.
And there's
So
always
hopefully
going
they
to
all
be
balance
that
out.
like tier list meta of like certain tacticals, and I don't think that a tier list, not everything needs to be on an equal play field. I think, and that might be a little bit controversial, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to have a meta of like, yeah, here are the bad slash worst guns, weapons, tacticals, and here's like, oh yeah, these are the okay ones, and I think that's like pretty healthy for a first person shooter to have like
I'm
a range. As long as that range is good and there's like a healthy amount of like bad, medium, good weapons, then I don't think it's that bad.
I'm not gonna get into this because this is a whole different debate, and I'm not
Yeah.
willing to touch that hot topic. But
Alright, yeah, fair enough.
my 2 cents on it is I feel like everything in the game should be both fun and viable to the extent. Should everything be meta? I mean, should there be a meta? But I still think if
Yeah.
something isn't fun
Yeah.
and it's over like and it's really
And I
strong,
probably should have mentioned
then
that.
yeah.
Like, I
So
do think that every weapon. I think it's good if there's a meta as long as every weapon in the end is fun to like some
As well
extent.
as if fighting that meta is also fun.
Yeah.
So
Well,
there
because
is
there's
that
in
too.
Titanfall 2, there's weapons at the bottom of the meta, and this might be a hot take, but weapons like the Kraber, the EPG, the softball, like the Kraber's good, but it's hard to use and it's really only picked up by like pro players. And so that might be why it's considered to be a low tier weapon. But in the end, it is fun. It is a fun
I don't
weapon to use because when you use it and dominate, then the Kraber is indeed very fun. And then you got like weapons like the EPG and softball, which are exactly the same way. They may be considered like low tier, not meta weapons, but they are still very fun to use. And I think that's why those weapons in particular are very appealing to players because yeah, if a player can pick them up and use them well, then that player like deserves like recognition for being so good with those low tier weapons, and that's why I think it's healthy to have like a range of weapons.
Hey man, I'm just saying that my favorite meta is just, amp wall with Spitfire, and I think it's just fun for everybody,
You
and it doesn't get
see,
dull, it doesn't stagnate, it's just
it's funny that
it's
you say that because I don't think we can be friends anymore after you said
oh, okay.
that.
I'm
That
pretty sure I'll
that's
get
the
a
end
lot
of
of
the
hate for
podcast, by the way.
yeah,
We're done.
yeah.
Yeah, no.
All right.
See you all next
See you
week.
guys.
Except
Logging out.
Therus won't be here. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
All right, and I
But
think
to
yeah,
get back on topic.
topic.
Uh, yeah, anyway, the third and final point that I was originally getting at of why it could be and couldn't be is the third thing that people might have issue with is not necessarily that there is a when we originally came up with it, it was supposed to be like you can swap out the passives once you like. I recommended when you regenerate it because that way you spent the first generation understanding each passive. So when you regenerate, you can swap them out. But that also conflicted with my personal ideal that people that spend like a lot of hours in the game should have like a very small benefit to what they got. So if you spend a lot of hours in the game, what you have over a new player is just, you might have all the weapons compared to what the new player has, or you might have just all the tactical abilities than what the new player has. But if you're able to have a higher level of like mid maxing, that might be too hard for new players to adjust to. So there is a little bit of a controversy there, and that's why that'd be the third reason of why maybe keeping the passes a staple to them. Would that lean too much on pilots no longer being a would it make them too much of a quote unquote hero class as opposed to a tactical choice?
Yeah,
Maybe, but that's a conversation for another day.
yeah. In the end, it is just like a single passive.
Yeah,
So,
and
um,
they're meant to complement the play style
yeah,
as opposed to make it a mid max choice.
yeah. Okay, pilot kits. Shall we touch on that now after talking about those passives?
Yeah, I feel like we covered that fairly well without getting
So
too
for
off
pilot
topic.
kits, what we discussed is at the as it currently stands, Titanfall 1, Titanfall 2, they had two pilot kits that you can put attachments on and customize how your pilot behaves. So like for Titanfall 2, you can equip like fast regen and hover or kill report, ordnance expert, all that sort of stuff. But in the end, it it ultimately wasn't that impactful. Aside from the tier 1 pilot kits which you
Hit.
mentioned, like all the meta ones like phase embark, uh, fast regen, and even power cell to a certain extent. They're like obvious picks, but even those aren't really always that impactful and don't really change up how you play. So what we came up with is a third pilot kit. So there are three pilot kits in total now that affect a different area of your pilot. And I believe the one you said is that one pilot kit will be designated to a suit modification, one will
Yes.
be a passive modification, and the third one will be a modification that you can make to your jump kit, which is
Yes,
something
correct.
that I came up with. We'll do the suit and passive ones first, since you came up with
Uh,
those, and then I'll
yeah.
touch on the
So
jump
like
kit ones.
the suit one would be along the lines of you take that enhanced power, so your tactical comes back quicker. You can have something along that lines, or maybe, and this might be a little bit more controversial, but there you can have like maybe a flak jacket or something as part of your suit customization where explosives, and I'd purely say explosives and not bullets for a very distinct reason because
You don't.
everything is a bullet, but splash damage in Titanfall is a lot of everywhere, so being slightly more resistant to it could help survivability in certain cases. And now you have a choice between, do you want to be able to grapple more often or do you want to survive the occasional explosion? Given if a grenade is at your feet, you will still die, but it's more resistant towards like blast damage AoE. So if it were to normally kill within 6 meters, you can survive up to 4 or something along that line.
Yeah,
Uh, Gives you a little bit of leeway.
that's a
Maybe it's
that's a good
better for
example
the new
for
players.
a suit kit.
Yeah.
And like,
And I don't have too many other examples at the moment because it's a relatively new idea. You can give us ideas if you have something that fits along the suit concept, but maybe just like maybe all grenades, for example, only have one kit. So frags only have one, arc stars only have one, etc., etc.
oh,
But maybe
you
there's
could
another flute that gives you two. So running this suit slot will give you two grenades that you can throw out in quick succession.
yeah.
So there are ideas there as well.
Just looking at the example we used were the perks from Modern Warfare because they have, despite that game's flaws, it does have a good perk system with the way they complement each other, and it is fun to like customize. And like some of these, yeah, there's like some really good ones that can go into like suit and passive upgrades, like battle hardened as well. Like maybe you could like that could easily go into Titanfall and say, oh, you have like a reduced stun effect to like arc grenades, and like
Mhm.
maybe the gravity star can pull you in like like a lot slower
Now,
or something like that.
to note, these aren't supposed to outweigh the effects of what the pilot passive or for their kit already is, or sorry, for their tactical already is. So if they have a grappling hook, none of them will overshadow or overlap. So if there is a stealth like embark or whatever that like the cloak pilot has, there won't be a kit that does the exact same thing.
Oh, right, yeah.
So
These are like
just to
general
reiterate on
suit upgrades.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So but yeah, so similar to that, like maybe if you pick the flak one, again, yeah, maybe
You
you're
know,
less resilient or you're more resilient to the camera shake that you get from like explosions
yeah.
and things like
I
that.
think suit and passive upgrades for your pilot are pretty like self-explanatory. But we can do like a quick brainstorm of like ideas, and I just thought of one. You know the in Titanfall 2 how there's the overdrive meter for your Titan that if
Correct.
you get kills without dying, you can get your Titan faster.
Yeah.
You can easily make that a pilot kit instead of always
Yeah.
active and just
Yeah.
and
And to touch on that, yeah, that could definitely go inside the passive
yeah,
idea for it. And then same thing with like what is it, Titan Hunter, that the newest one that was put in.
a
Titan Hunter
newest
could
quote
also go
unquote
inside the yeah, it could go
update.
in well, but that can go inside the passive idea. So you have the suit slot, which kind of is the suit, and the passive would be more like a background thing.
Oh,
Maybe that kit is a little bit more affects more of the meta play, as in like doing more Titan or doing more Titan damage, get your Titan back quicker, and then maybe one it affects like again how quickly you're overcharged or whether how quickly it decays, and
you could have
there's things to play there.
overkill be a suit upgrade. You can have like cold blooded, high alert be passives. I'm just looking at like a list of perks and like seeing like yeah these could easily go into Timefall too. But you know what those do?
Sorry, it was the pilot kits. Sorry, I zoned out just for a tad bit.
So
That's
yeah,
my bad there.
I was just thinking high alert, cold blooded are like passives, and you can have something like where was it? I lost it. But anyway, yeah, it's just a better system in general.
Yeah, yeah, and you kind of get again get the idea of it. Maybe not affect the meta. Again, it's the option of a background idea going. So you suggested like maybe a enhanced parkour kit from the original Titanfall
Oh,
that
that's
does
going
wall hang.
into the jump kit
Well, well,
customization.
well,
Yeah.
yeah, that goes
So,
into jump kit. But I was going to talk more on the opposite, which was like wall hang or hover, which you
okay.
could say goes into the jump kit, but it's interchangeable.
Yeah.
But that one could either that one's more of a gameplay standpoint, and that one of the tier quote unquote tier 2 kits or the passive background kits could go either there so you wall hang better, or it can go inside, like a suit slot, but I don't see how that would affect or how
I
that
think for them to
would be
better
directly
understand
addressed.
like what we're trying to do, we
So
really should explain the jump kit first.
Yeah, I'll wrap up this in about like 2 sentences here. So,
Okay.
what I'm getting at with the passive kit is it can either affect the meta or it could affect the background gameplay. So, if you want to hook onto a wall slightly longer, you have the chance to, but it should either do one or the other, not both. If that makes sense. Anyway, I'll pass it back onto the jump kit. I
Okay.
just wanted to wrap that little idea up.
So, jump kits. Jump kit customization is something I came up with, and it's a pilot kit customization for your the pilot loadout, designated specifically for movement, the enhanced movement of Titanfall 2. And the way I see it is, you load in, you pick your tactical, you pick your suit, your passive kits, and then you get your jump kit upgrades, and you take a look. And the more you play, the more modifications to your jump kit you can make. And when you first play, you unlock something simple like enhanced parkour, which you mentioned, increased wall run distance, increased slide distance, increased wall hang duration. That can all go into one jump kit upgrade. And then as you play, you unlock new kits that specifically change up the movement. So let's say you reach level 5, and now you've unlocked triple jump for your jump kit modifications, and then you play a little bit more, you unlock like a dash modification that allows you to have like uh you can like dash in midair now, and and then finally when you get to like level 40 or something, you get like an air control jump kit modification, which just allows you to have no friction in the air, and you can just move around and circle midair with quick movements. And these are all specifically tied to movement. So that's why I think there should be a slot in the pilot customization designated specifically to jump kit modifications, and that's what this whole tab is for.
So small idea here. What if instead of them being tied to level, what if they are just tied to the credits that you can use? So you can buy
It
them
doesn't
at
really have.
any particular order. So you can just do which
Um,
one you want. But
right.
at the same time, they're always available. But I
Yeah,
think they should be tied to
credits.
credits.
Credits, which you mentioned before. I am a supporter of credits, but the reason I have it specifically tied to level is something we touched up on earlier, and that's that some of these options are going to appeal more to advanced players, and we used air control as an example. The reason you unlocked air control last, right, is because for a new player, they're going to see air control as the last perk and be like, oh, it just disables friction. Why would you take that over like a triple jump? But as you play the game, you learn the importance of air mobility, moving in the air, strafing, and so as you become a more experienced player, and like reach level 40, you understand the mechanics, you understand how to move, then you're like, oh, I see. So air control is for experienced air strafers, and that's why it's tied to the level system. And I think credits should should be there to keep something you want to take in the next when you gen up. So maybe you unlock credits as you play, but you don't exactly know what you want to buy yet. But the reason you level up is so you can slowly play with every tool, and then when you reach level 50 and you're about to go into generation 2, you have those credits that you unlocked throughout the entire generation. You're like, okay, I've played everything. I want to take this, I want to take that, I want to purchase this, and I want to take it all into generation 2. And that's how I see credits. And that's
Okay,
why,
so
yeah.
counterpoint. All these people are probably that go into Titanfall 3 would be playing Titanfall 2. Wouldn't they already know what the whole
You
what life is like without friction?
you can't like assume that everyone is going to be experienced
I
at the game.
know, but at the same time,
But
there
at the
is the
same
other
time,
option of
We are.
If I look at the idea of, oh, there's no air friction, are you kidding me? I can break the laws of physics and not have air friction. Of course I would take it. I mean, it might take me a little bit of understanding to play around with it, but if I unlock it really early, by the time I hit that high level play, I will be a master with it.
Yeah,
So
and
there
that's the
is
whole point.
that there too.
It doesn't really like matter, to be honest. How you get it.
Yeah,
We're just purely talking about mechanics,
s-
not
yeah,
how to
speculation.
unlock. Also, with Titanfall 3, it doesn't matter if you played Titanfall 3 and Titanfall 1. We are talking about so many new mechanics for Titanfall 3 that it will take time for people to adjust, because in the last two podcasts where we talked about Titan combat and Titan customization, we've already introduced things like chiclets, three-stage rodeo, we've introduced like repair, we've introduced so much stuff that I think even if you are a veteran at Titanfall 2, you will need time to adjust to all the new mechanics. So I think it doesn't really like your last argument is kind of null and void. Not
Yeah,
not
okay,
like
but
entirely, but like
yeah, but Uh, yeah. So I feel like at the end of the day, the idea still stands of these all the kits are something that when combined can really make a true you get to build the feel of your pilot
yeah,
to like the full extent,
to
and I feel
your
like each one covers
specific playstyle.
very well. Yeah.
Anyway,
Do you want to go into boosts next, or do you want to cover
yes.
up like personal ideas that we came up with our own pilot tactical kits before we move away from
Oh, pilot tacticals. We did come up with our own tactical
yeah.
ideas. I think for the sake of time, we should just we'll leave that for.
Well, I
Well,
figure because
unless we
it
can
is
do it in like 10
there's
minutes.
theoretically only 3 that we came up with, and we can list them off pretty quick
Yeah. Well,
because 2 of them
I got the
technically
time
already
now.
exist.
It's 11:50 for me right now. We'll have like 10 minutes to quickly talk about these tacticals we came up with. So, I came up with one called the Disruptor, and it's essentially a counter tactical designed to take away your opponent's advantage for like a short time. So let's say you're in a one-on-one fight with someone who has Pulse Blade or Grapple or Hollow Pilot. The Disruptor is designed to put that ability on cooldown for like 5, maybe to 10 seconds, just for that one-on-one encounter. So you activate the ability, you take away your opponent's advantage, you have that small amount of time to assess the threat on an equal playing field, and then you can take the fight if you want to. There's also the idea that the Disruptor can be used to hack AI forces, like turrets and specters, and even Auto Titans, to a certain extent. Like, I think for Auto Titans, it wouldn't be permanent. Like, if the enemy pilot hopped in the Auto Titan, then, uh,
It'll go away, but
yeah,
I would assume like if you activate it, then maybe the auto titan just ignores you, or it just kind of like
yeah.
glitches out for a
But
second.
that is the general idea of the Disruptor. And you came up with Warp Blade?
Yeah, well, actually, yeah. So Warblade, which the idea of it is very similar to Loba's freaking teleport. I hate to say it like that, but I came up with it first. I have proof of it. Loba just exists and has a very similar thing, but the idea
Ah,
is you
but
throw a knife
Therus, Red
and
versus Blue did it first.
uh, not even true. But
Anyway,
yeah, you throw the knife or you throw basically it's a short sword and you throw it in wherever it lands, you teleport the second after it lands. So it gives you a lot of it's a very mobility esque
it's a
uh
personal teleporter,
it's a personal
but
teleporter,
it can
but
kill.
it gives a lot of variation of a playstyle. You can toss it straight up in the air. You can play around with a gunfight, and right when the guy thinks he gets his, gets the upper hand on you, it lands and you teleport away. Or there's lots of playstyle to it. Comes with its own execution and everything. But that's the idea of that. The other one was the idea of it's basically a jetpack, which is
Oh, like the jetpack from
Valkyrie. I came
Valkyrie?
up with it first.
Yeah.
I came up with it first. I have proof. I
You
came up with
know,
it
Therus,
first.
I came up with my own idea as well. It's called like a gravity well, and you throw it on the
Ah,
ground,
yeah,
and you can like gain like massive verticality. You know,
God, I'm upset that I have to address the ones that I've already addressed.
kind of like
Uh,
Horizon's ability from Apex. You know.
Yeah,
Okay,
just kill me. Anyway,
okay.
but yeah, very similar. But actually, it's a lot different from how it works in Apex. In this one, it keeps the momentum that you've carried. You can basically jetpack in any direction, and you're propelled the way that you're currently looking. So if you look straight up, it'll launch you straight up. If you are looking forward, but you're holding the like move backwards or S key, it'll launch you backwards. Things like that. You only can hold it down for up to 5 seconds, and then it has to recharge, but it's toggleable. So, if you want quick bursts of movement or if you need a little bit more to make it across the gap, yeah, you can do it. And it saves your double jump. So you can use all your jetpack and then jump in air once. So you can do things like that.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of playability with it. And even if it's a simple concept, the idea of just having a jetpack has always been cool. So, there's that. The final one, which we kind of touched a little bit, and it was kind of in the game,
Ah, the sword.
was the sword pilot.
Yes.
So again,
Forgot about it.
basic idea is this one's not as fully fleshed out, but the idea is you pull out your sword. Maybe you can block bullets back while you have it out, but you move slower.
Faster.
Uh,
Not
faster?
no, not slower. Why would you move slower with
Well,
the
only when
sword
the
out?
sword is out when you're blocking. Only
Oh,
when you're
right, when the
blocking.
blocking. Sorry, I
Yeah, no.
made the
When
sword.
you're
I
when
made the
you're when you
sword concept before we talked about blocking, and I imagined like since it's like a melee
yeah.
based, you want to close the gap faster,
No.
so you whip out the
Yeah,
sword,
when you
walk like
when you're running with it, yeah, no,
yeah,
when you're running with it, you move faster. But the downsides are, it's a sword. You can't shoot or anything like that.
just
Maybe
throw
it
it.
might be cool if you can throw it at
Yeah,
people.
just an
There's things
endless
like that.
supply of swords that you can throw.
Yeah, but the idea is like you can maybe block bullets back,
Yeah.
but while you're blocking, you move slower.
Uh,
The thing is uh we also address that might be a little bit broken
yeah.
being
I
able
think
to block bullets,
I
so you
envision the
are able to get
sword.
shot from the back.
I envision the sword as like the most obvious way any person would envision a sword, and that's just to be a close range brawler. Like,
Yeah,
I came up with the idea that Titanfall 2's like standard melee. It has insane lunge. It has insane tracking. Just give that to a sword tactical and have the melee be like dog water. Not dog water, but it's like
you know what?
slow
What you
and
could do?
clunky. And what the sword does, it gives you the option to lunge and do the
Yeah,
locking, and it also has the quicker melee, meaning that you could, let's say there's two people close together, you have the sword, and you could do a quick two melee action, and it will kill them both like really quickly. But then your like ability will go on like cooldown or something. Like it has
I
two
would
charges or something.
I would say this. So yeah, the sword it's toggleable, so you can either pull out the sword or put it away. When you pull out the sword, you run faster, or I would say slightly faster. Not nothing game breaking, but you
Like
move faster,
10%.
and you get a lunge as well when you
Yeah.
melee swipe. Alternatively, if you quote unquote aim down sights, you will activate block, and you can block, and you kind of have like a cone of fire around you, and that's where the bullets get reflected back. The more you get shot at, the tighter that cone gets, so you get more accurate the on reflecting the bullets back. However, if it closes all the way, I would say maybe your guard breaks, so you can no
Oh,
longer block. So it's kind of like a risk
that makes
versus a
sense.
reward. You can get really accurate towards the very end, but if you can't reflect the bullets back and kill the person that's shooting at you, the guy shooting at you will break your guard. You can no longer block, and then thus he
And
he shoots you and kills
since
you.
Titanfall is such a fast pace, you got to keep in mind that this is all happening within like the span of seconds.
Also, while you're
So
blocking, you're slower, so it can balance out there too.
ah,
But
it
that,
doesn't.
I feel like that's all the abilities. If you have any more, feel free to shoot us to it. I think we should move on.
Yes, boosts. We can talk about boosts now. We don't really have a lot to say on boosts, actually.
Yeah, just the idea of boosts in general, just to kind of make it quick and to feed through this. Uh, yeah, a lot of the boosts would get updated. For example, to mention the Disruptor ability, if you use the Disruptor ability, it stops Pistol. I think Smart Pistol should still be a passive, or sorry, still be a boost.
Passive. Everyone has a smart pistol. Everybody.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
bonkers. But yeah,
Just give it to
I still think
everybody.
it should be
It's
its
an
own
anti-titan
thing.
weapon now.
Yeah. The other idea is like you got anti-Titan and then you got anti-pilot guns. They do the exact same thing. They shoot and kill. If you look at it, it should just be a button. You toggle between which mode, but it only is one boost. Other ones I think that should be on there is like you can call in, like you can drop down a personal reaper, but that's like it takes a lot more to charge up. Maybe you can drop down and you get like a group of
On
guards that
the
actively follow you or specters that
on the
actively
topic
follow you.
of dropping in I thought of a fun way to change up attrition. This is way off topic. I'll spend like 30 seconds talking about this.
Go for it.
I imagine in attrition, you earn points kind of similar to Bounty Hunt. When you kill AI forces, you kill enemy players and titans, and as you earn points, you can call down AI reinforcements, more powerful AI reinforcements, if you have more money stored up from killing enemy forces. So let's say like a stalker group costs like $20, you can get like specters which cost like 10, and then a reaper which costs like 40, and like it's
I
yeah,
feel like that'd be
that's
a fun variation of Money in the Bank.
yeah, and it's like attrition. You get to, and like players can actively feel like they're contributing to the fight by calling in their own like little personal squadron of AI forces, and they can get credited with the kills. But yeah, that's way off topic. Talking about game modes now. Back to
Anyway,
boosts.
yeah. So boost again. Get rid of some of the non-use ones. Like for example, map hack. Combine that with radar jammer. Put them. They're one and the same. When you use it, they do both. So
Yeah,
you're not getting rid of one, but again, it just makes them stronger.
it's just
And
called
then
map jammer.
yeah, or whatever. Map overhaul. Who cares? But the thing is you just put every
Radar
boost
hack.
has a dominating presence in its own particular way, and none of them should feel like they're being left out. Uh, but the other thing is the boost isn't directly tied to the Titan meter. I mean, it is because as one goes up,
It's
the
not.
other one goes up. But the thing
Well, yeah.
they're tied, but they're not. So once you get your Titan, you could it will reset the boost meter again, so you can earn
And
multiple
that's when it
boosts.
becomes its own separate meter after you get your first Titan.
Yeah, and then the thing is if you don't call down your Titan, you can still get more. But the thing is, it will only stack up to like maybe two or three, depending on how strong it
3
is.
is what we said.
Yeah, I think we said three was that
Yeah.
is a good baseline.
And for
And the
tick, since you
reason,
get like 2 for every boost, you stack up to like 6.
yeah, so like, and the reason for that is because at some point you got to use it. You got to use it. Amp weapons would no longer be damage. It will give you variations of the weapons that you're currently holding that do particular things, but it's not tied to a timer where it's like do as much as you can in 30 seconds. It's more like here's a special variation of the Kraber that shoots explosive rounds. Have fun with it. You're limited on ammo. Normally in Titanfall you have unlimited ammo. When you get these special variants, the you're not a time duration on the weapon, it's an ammo duration. So if you burn through all the ammo, you just revert back to your normal weapon. You just pull that one back out again. So
And yeah, that's pretty much
yeah, that's
everything
the
about
long and short
boosts.
of it.
There's not
And
really
then I
much to
guess
say about boosts.
yeah, it just it can use an overhaul and it could be done much better. But the idea of it is good. I like it better than I like burn cards. I know some people really like burn cards.
Bird
I still
cards.
think we could take some of those burn cards and turn them into boosts.
I
But
imagine like an entire game mode dedicated to using bird cards, but like that's another topic.
yeah. Anyway,
Uh,
and then finally the customization, pilot
Customization,
customization. I think
pilot
that's our last
customization.
topic.
I think no matter what happens with pilot customization, it has to be obvious what pilot tactical you're going up against, especially now that we have like Warp Blade, Sword, and Disruptor tacticals on the table. If you're unable to notice that a person might be able to take away your tactical and you go push them and then they do it, you're like, ah, shit! So I think no matter what happens, there needs to be a clear silhouette of each tactical that can be easily recognizable. Um,
Now,
but you can.
now these customizations would include changing out like shoulder guards, helmet, knee guards, just overall chest and things like that.
Halo Reach stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, Halo Reach stuff,
That's the short and
but
simple
without
of it.
changing the overall dynamic of what the pilot looks like.
Yeah.
Very ambitious, mind
I
you.
like
He-
I like the idea of pilot lights as well. You can change like the lights of your pilot.
Yeah,
And I
that'd be a given.
also like, you know how there's those elite weapon skins for pilot weapons? Like the Arturo one has it, the car has one, like a lot of them have one.
Yeah,
There could be like elite war paints for your pilot, which I think would
you're
be
just
pretty
talking
cool.
about prime pilots.
Well, they would be different to prime. You
I'm
could have
for it.
prime pilots, but I'm
I'm
thinking just
absolutely for it.
I'm just thinking like pure like camos that could be slapped on, and they're like exclusive to each tactical, and that'd be like a way that respawn could make money as well, or
Now,
like
here's one, and this might be controversial, but I think it's a fun topic because I'm neither here nor there on it. I just think it's a fun talking point.
yeah
Should armor allow for very like slight advantages here or
no
there? So if you get like knee guards,
no
no, just hear me out.
nah.
If
But
you get knee guards,
pure
you can
cosmetics.
slide a little bit further. If you get like
No,
good,
no, that would be
yeah, but then you
terrible.
but now you get to like and then min maxing is, do you want more health or do you want more mobility?
Oh,
If you
but
get rid of
then
all your armor, you're very squishy.
you're just turning Titanfall into an RPG game at that point.
I know I
Wait,
am, and it's
you go for
funny.
like the better build, but your armor looks like shit. Or
Yep,
you like do
yep,
the opposite and you just have like really wonky stats.
yep.
Ah,
It
that
just
would be terrible.
just
No,
it was
just
always
no.
a dynamic I wanted to bring up. I know it's silly, and again I'm neither here nor there. I could care less about it honestly, but
Oh, but
it's
that would
always a fun idea of like, what if I just like took away all my armor, I threw on these knee guards so I could like, and then I just make the most mobile class, and I'll name it the mobility nobility, and nobody can stand up against me.
Oh no, you're like talking earlier about players who have been playing the game longer. They'll have that
Oh,
advantage
that
of
they
min
already
maxing.
know.
Yeah,
They
like
already know. They
imagine
make the most.
someone who's unlocked every single armor piece and has just developed the ability to slide like an extra 20 feet or
and
something.
just and just and he has like those like shotgun or
And they
mounted
just
wrist-mounted
slide
like shotgun shells so
circles
you can reload
around you,
faster, and
players.
then yeah.
Uh,
I always liked the idea of that. It would never work in a multiplayer game. Maybe in a single player like campaign, you can get away with that. Like if Halo Reach, if the armor stuff worked like that in Halo Reach, you could play around with that in single player, but not in multiplayer.
hmm.
There would be something there. But
I mean,
that's a conversation for another day because I just think the idea of small perks eventually making you a god if you know how to min max is always hilarious
what
because
else
I
can we
see it
talk
throw
about?
around here and there.
Oh, we
I
talked
like the
about
idea. It can't be executed.
we also talked about gender and simulacrum options, like the ability to
Yeah.
interchange
So
them.
male, female, and then simulacrum.
Yeah. For every tactical, that is.
Yeah.
But
It,
I don't know. I like it that some tacticals are simulacrum specifically, but when we're talking about ways to customize and players to express themselves, and it is the better option just to allow them to pick whether or not they want to be a robot or a human. But at that point, I think everyone would just run around as a simulacrum
and you know what?
because they're just
I think here is a good way to go around that is I say give them all the customization they want, right? Give them the ability to be a simulacrum or a pilot, male, female, doesn't matter. But what you could do is you could like have something similar to like a Steam workshop and allow open, like
oh
have players submit their own skins or their own things. Like there will be some in the game by default, but I feel like people in the community are creative. Like they could make their
yeah.
own
There are also some
skins.
real people in the community that are just idiots. And they will
Well,
just slap
then they
like
don't get
Doge JPEG images onto a
what I
pilot skin.
what I mean like this is so players that make non meme skins can submit them to whoever develops the game. The people that develop the game, they'll evaluate it, see if it's too pixel heavy, see if it can run or if it bogs on the game, see if it fits the art style or the game dynamic. And if it does, they will release it into the game for like a small fee, like maybe like a buck 19 or something, who cares. But like 10% of those profits would go to the guy that makes the skin, and
That
then the
would be
other.
cool.
So you're both supporting the game, and also the community is getting paid to keep the game alive by creating content for the game.
That is
S-
actually
the yeah, yeah.
a
That
nice.
that could be a way that can constantly keep cosmetics feeling fresh and new without it making it feel like that, you're limited, and then once you unlock all the customization, you're like, ah. So,
Yeah. I
it's a way
came
to
up.
have two forms of it.
Yeah, that is actually a nice idea. I also came up with the idea of animated pieces of armor that you can equip onto your pilots, which I think would be cool if you could have like matrix code running along you or like little flames on your shoulders, and that can be like an entire like
Well, those
separate.
you can get, like, when you prestige and things like that just as, like,
Yeah,
bonuses, so you can flash, "Hey, guys, I'm, like, a Gen 30," or
yeah,
something like that.
and you can like
So,
change the color of them as well, and just like some neat stuff like that.
yeah.
Um,
But I do feel like that's almost everything there.
that
We actually
is
flew through this one.
pretty much, yeah. That was, I don't know. We say that,
Um,
but like
we say that it might
it's
have been,
probably
like, a
at
full
least like
hour.
an hour long. Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
I'll feel really
Um,
stupid. We gotta like prolong this out to be an hour now, because if it isn't, then I'll just look like an idiot. Nah.
no, no, I mean, well, the last one ran long, so this one could run a little bit shorter.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, the last one. Yeah, an hour and 10 minutes or something.
ew.
I mean,
But, I
it's
mean,
not
at the
that
end of the
long.
day, it this was purely up and it also gives us time to, like, talk to, the people that listen this far and just be
Yeah,
like,
to
"Hey,
my
if you
whole
have
like,
if you have ideas or if you
yeah,
have anything or thoughts of anything that we discussed or your own ideas, send us a message or leave a reply and just tell us what you would do or what your thoughts on this
don't forget to.
overall was."
Yeah, and about those announcements at the beginning of the episode, we will be doing a campaign podcast. I don't know when, but it will come eventually when we talk about it some more. And also the Discord server that will be coming soon. Maybe it could be like a 500 subscriber milestone. So, you know, hit the subscribe, share this video, like it, send a comment, do all the normal stuff. And I think with all that, we'll see you
We'll
all
end it.
in the next episode of Frontier Workshop. This has been Agent Mav and Therus.